Yeah, there we go. I gotta make sure the sound's working. But in a world full of Tim Hortons breakfasts, in a world full of McDonald's pancakes, not for me. Not for me right now. So my breakfast was a rather filling one for the calories. So about 200 calories. I had a coffee with like 8 Splendas in it. So those aren't exactly 0 calories. They do have some, I'm pretty sure there's some dextrose involved in there as well. I should really just use aspartame as a sweetener, because that is like actually legitimate 0 calorie sweetener. Some of the Splenda packets, it's like a Tic Tac. It's a weird loophole when it comes to nutrition labeling, because if a serving is less than 0.05 grams, like one Tic Tac is not a gram, then technically the label can round down the amount of carbs that it says in one, and it can say that Tic Tacs are a sugar-free snack. I don't know if they make that claim exactly now, because it's just blatantly untrue. But they can write 0 calories because one serving is so small that just one is insignificant. At least, in their labeling idea, But if I had a cup of Tic Tacs, that would be like, 100 grams of carbs, or however many. So just something to keep in mind. But really all that's to say is I counted that sweetener from the coffee as like 6 grams of carbs, just to be safe. I'd rather count something than not count it. You know what I'm saying? So if you know the exact number, how many grams of carbs are in one Splenda packet, I guess I'd love to hear it. But usually I count it as like half a gram of carbs, just to, make sure I get it accounted for. Everything I'm eating, I want to be very specific with right now. Because if I'm putting in all this freaking effort, to, only eat like 2,300 calories, well, I'm not going to let 100 slip. I'm not going to let 200 slip through the cracks. I'm going to make sure I know how much food went down. But it was a small tin of chicken, so only 15 grams of protein in one, strained, mixed with half of a serving of non-fat Greek yogurt, mixed with a couple of however many portions of ranch dressing powder, or like ranch flavoring, and then 2 rice cakes all crushed up and mixed together into this little kind of just ranch chicken rice cake sort of blend, and it was pretty good. And one thing that I always do now, at least, when I'm eating these big bowls of food, or like just like a mash of some variety, whether it's like rice cakes and ground beef and barbecue sauce, or rice cakes and chicken and Greek yogurt, and then that ranch seasoning, is once I get it all mixed together, I'm gonna eat it with a small spoon, like a little, like basically like a teaspoon. You get the big spoons in the drawer, and you get the small ones. If I use the small one, I end up taking more bites, and I spend longer eating the meal, and then it feels like it's a bit more filling. I do the complete opposite when I'm bulking. It would be foolish, or it would feel foolish to sit here and like take a million scoops of a little bit of ground beef at a time. Like I'm grabbing a damn ladle, putting that down. So it's sort of like a difference in medium kind of affects your rate of consumption, or even your perceived rate of consumption. Because this is something that we don't always think about, but dieting is relative. Like relatively in a bulk. I could grab 2 bags of Skittles and then eat a real meal. Whereas right now, I'm barely eating the equivalent of 2 bags of Skittles worth of carbs in the entire day. But sometimes those lower carb meals feel more filling. So it's not always just so simple as like how much are you eating. It's what exactly are you eating. But it seems that my way has been blocked. Somebody either crashed or something. Jeez. Alright, so a little bit of a detour on the way to this morning quad lift. And a little less than 2 weeks out, this very well may be my last quad session pre-competition. And I'm not saying that just because I want to skip quads. Whoa. Shit, I'm going to be the guy spinning that in here. But just because, oh my gosh, All right, I gotta go really slow here. There's no salt on this road. This is freshly slicked by snow. But it's by training your quads this close to showtime, they're not growing, they're not progressing. All you're doing is kind of inducing undue, not like damage, but just kind of like stress and inflammation, you know? So the week before showtime, at least, I'm definitely not hitting quads because I need them to be kind of relaxed and uninflamed and like, I don't want to say supple, but just uninflamed is really the word. Because when I carb up and if when I actually want to hit my quad shots and everything, I want all the deep cuts and grains in my quads to, basically reveal themselves. So a lot of the times backstage, guys are going to lay down and they're even putting their feet up against the wall, like elevating their legs just so they don't get like too much kind of blood accumulation just from like even just walking around like doing nothing. When you're carved up pre-stage debut, I mean, you can just get a pump by like walking around, so you're trying to fight against that. So it's a very different circumstance than just regular training, right? Where there really is no excuse not to hit quads or not to actually hit your legs, apart from just you don't want to, But even then, it's not going to be that wild. Like, there's no pressing involved here. This is just going to be some leg extensions and some sissy squats, enough to get my quads basically as pumped as I can. See how they're looking. Hit a couple of kind of side chest shots and try to squish my hamstring up against my other leg to make my leg appear thicker from the side. And then instead of heading straight to cardio, I'm just going to come home first and edit this video together, because I'm still going to do my post-workout cardio even though I'm doing quads, but I don't need to do it instantly after getting them pumped up. I'll come home, get a meal, wait a minute, and then get on the seated bike. Even in a steeper deficit, it's something to consider. Like, what would the point of cardio be immediately after getting a quad pump? You kind of putting a little bit of undue stress onto them. But yeah, that's the plan. So now all that's left to do is freaking execute it. All right, so nothing insane, and I'm going to start light squeezing. So really, the point of this kind of starter set is kind of half warm up, half activation, almost. Which is kind of how I do my quad sessions anyway. Like, if I'm doing a heavy off season, like leg press, hip press, Smith squat, quad session. No, we're good. Then I'm still going to start with light leg extensions because it's kind of just a perfect quad opener, I don't get as much quad activation and squeezing and actual like good contraction if I warmed up on the leg press itself. So starting with leg extensions is kind of a staple. The only difference is now it's kind of all I'm going to be doing, just because I'm not trying to destroy my quads. I just need to get them pumped up and stimulated. But I think I'm going to do gradually decreasing alternating reps, really squeeze and burn, and kind of go from there. So the warmer I get, the heavier I'll go, and kind of play it by ear, more like play it by leg. But let's get started. Hey, look, yeah, that'll be good. Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. That's a good little starter. Let's go a little heavy and repeat. Yeah. 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 Okay. All right, I think 2 more just like that, and then I'll add some kind of variety aspect. Squeezing, holding, something like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, one more. Let's do some double leg after this next one. That'll be a good change up. All right, I lied. Let's go straight into a double leg set. I can kind of feel, and this is like, you know, it's a little tricky to kind of explain, but I think if I did one more set of single leg of that exact same style, it wouldn't have added to the pumpness of my quads. So I think let's just move straight on to some kind of faster, I don't want to say bouncier, but more kind of tension intensive leg extension reps. And then get ready for a sissy squat superset and see how quads are looking. Okay. Yeah, one more of those with a sissy squat superset, and I think we can see how quads are looking pumped. Yeah, they're just about there. Okay, yeah, that'll do it. Let's grab some lighting. All right, there we go. Yeah. And the craziest thing about that was, even though that was only like 5 sets of light squeezing leg extensions, my quads feel just as pumped as if I just did 6 plate squats, 12 plate hip press, and then a variety of, kind of intermediary supersets in between. Oh, so yeah, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to feel. But visually, yeah, it's pumped. Maybe not an understatement. Maybe it's just about, a good description. But yeah, no, that's what I want to see. So actually, the pump almost is taken away from some of the separation from like medial to outer to inner kind of teardrop quad. But even fully pumped, still a substantial amount of feathering. And I think I'm actually starting to see some feathering down the teardrop of my quad. This level of pinchable skin is getting close to about where I want it. This big outer sweep up here, very thin. I've got less fat at this kind of upper section than I do down here towards the knees. So over the next few days, I'm hoping this will thin out a touch. But vein-wise, shit, man. I mean, we're cooking with gas now. Let me try to do a little bit of a breath hold and really get them popping out. Oh, oh, that's tricky. So there should be some slightly more noticeable glute striations this side shot than last time. So what I want is a few lines right here on my lower butt. So let's see if I can pop them out. Yeah, that's what I want to see. All these little bits of like grain and everything, that is telling me that this body fat is getting thinner than ever freaking before. So if you're curious about posing, obviously I'm not a posing like master, but I can tell you a little bit of a basic tip here is I'm thinking like 10 different cues. So this is either for like a side chest or a side standing or a side tricep, whatever. But I'm trying to, for one, kind of drag my leg in and squish it up over the top. So I'm not standing like this. Like I'm standing here like this, you see? So by doing so, I'm squishing my leg against itself, thickening it up side to side. But if you tense your hamstring, it flexes and it wants to shrink. So I've got to relax my hamstring as much as possible while at the same time squeezing my glutes and putting a little bit of force into my left leg through my quad so that my quad is extra, flexed too. Because I want my quad flexed, my glute flexed, but my hamstring's completely relaxed. So it's like I'm thinking fucking 10 things at once just for the lower section of my posing. But that's a really thick shot for me. Let me try to hit one more really good one. But this is the reward for those 6-plate squats and those fucking crazy leg presses I've been doing this whole off season. Obviously my legs are big, bulked, but I've never seen my quads this like thick in this sort of side profile shot. Let me get one more. This is like hips below. This right now is the craziest I've ever looked in the mirror, which is fucking awesome for me to be able to say. Yeah, I mean, dude, that is a real ass lower body. Literally no pun intended. Holy shit. No, that's sweet. And that's pumped. So when my quads are unpumped, all these little like quad lines are going to be even more exaggerated. So that's what I want. I want to be able to translate this look in about a week and a half on stage, tanned up, carved up, lights, crowd. No. I mean, the pieces are up in the air. All they've got to do is fall together. and I'm getting really freaking excited about it. So I'm gonna head home, get on the cardio bike. Just, moderate intensity. I just need to get my heart rate elevated for 45 minutes. Edit this thing together, but let's have some more post-lift recap. I am this is fucking sweet. All right, I just caught myself in like a inner monologue, beginning of a not debate, but beginning of like a little bit of a like self-barter. Because my quads are pumps right now. They're definitely going to be burning for a little while. Like even just sitting, like if a regular person was just going about their day and then their legs felt like this out of nowhere, it would be cause for concern. Like they'd be like, why do my legs just hurt? They're like aching, But of course we know that's actually a good feeling. But I kind of caught myself thinking, maybe I should just do my night session of cardio. Maybe I should skip the post-workout cardio today because I don't want to overdo it with my quads, which is true. So part of that argument is like justified by real logic, but I don't think that's exactly what I want to do. So maybe I'll just do split C's, 20 minutes seated bike, 20 minutes on the walk mill. I've got a little at-home like $100 Amazon treadmill. Don't use it that much because it's not very good. It's probably good for like a 180-pound dude, but if you're a little closer to that 230 mark, or not even talking 260 or like 265 in off season, it gets a little trickier because it's like unless you're walking, unless you're doing like a runway walk where your feet are kind of right in the middle every step, it gets a little sticky. I don't know, but post quads, if you've still got some cardio to do, I would probably prefer the treadmill over the bike because the bike is much more quad focused. But then again, I could just do the bike and leverage my hamstrings more, where instead of feeling like I'm pushing the pedal, I feel like I'm pulling it back with every rotation, using more hamstrings. I think that might be the trick. And that's not an original thought. There's an old video of Rich where he's hitting his cardio and he's talking about changing up the muscle that he's like specifically working on the cardio bike, like thinking more quad, more hamstring, more glute, like pulling with his calves, that sort of stuff. But I'm definitely going to wait a minute first. I'm going to go home, eat something, kind of let my legs chill for a little bit, and then go for that session 1 of cardio. But I feel like I'm getting a little bit reinvigorated. I don't know if it's because I slept good last night or what, but the last like 2 days I was feeling a little low in terms of pep. I was feeling a little low, like not like excitement wise, but just energy wise. Like I think I might want to try to schedule in like a midday nap at this point, just to maybe counteract some of this fucking. At this point I would probably say diet fatigue, So that's I'll figure it out. Either way, it's not that much longer, obviously the diet is certainly taking a substantial amount of effort and it's hard, but I mean, is it hard enough that I don't want to blow it? Is it so hard that I want to say, you know what, screw it, I don't care, I'm going to get some Krispy Kreme donuts, I'm gonna pull out of the show, I'm gonna never, not even a freaking little bit. The fun part is the fact that it was hard. That's easy to say right now because I feel really good. I just hit a crazy quad pump, look nuts in the mirror. I'm not thinking to myself, ooh, this is really fun, as I wake up last night at midnight. I'm kind of hungry. I go to the fridge, I grab 8 pickled chips, drink a Gatorade Zero, and then go back to bed. In the moment of difficulty, I'm not thinking, yeah, this is really fun right now. But I know that if I didn't do it, it would not feel very good. And I don't think that's just like a compulsive, like obsessive kind of motivation that I have. It's more so just like a kind of experience, Like if you've ever really dieted, which there's like a few different phases of this situation anyway, because there's people who they want to diet and then they never even start it, so they don't even give themselves a chance to let themselves down. the beginning process never even happens. So that's kind of just this weird, like, dreary, like, maybe one day feeling. But if you ever actually go for it, you put some pressure on yourself and you say, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to count my calories. I'm going to lose a couple of pounds. Let's make this happen. And the guy sticks to it for more than a week. Like, he really does actually get into dieting for, let's say, 3 weeks minimum. By the time you've been dieting pretty strictly for 3 weeks, that's kind of proof, like, okay, you mean it this time. You're doing it. If you fall off the wagon after doing it for that long, that should give you this little bit of a feeling of just like, man, why did I do that? Because once you've done it, once you've actually stuck to a deficit for a while and you're actually losing fat, you're getting leaner, then you're basically connecting the dots in your mind of, okay, just how hard is this really, and how much am I enjoying the results? And not only the results themselves, but the progress and the progression towards them, which I think is almost more important. Like, if you're dieting for real, you don't just wake up one day happy with yourself. You're like, if a guy's goal is to lose 100 pounds over the course of however long, and he loses 50, and he's on track towards what his goal is. Let's say he's given himself, obviously the time frame of this is crazy, but let's just use it as an example. Let's say 100 pounds in, I don't know, let's just say 10 months. It's going to take a bit longer than that, I would assume. It depends on how strict your deficit is. But let's say 100 pounds, 10 months, that's the goal, regardless of feasibility. He's not just going to wake up at the end having achieved the goal and think, wow, now I'm happy with myself. I did it. Like, there's definitely going to be a boost from achieving that goal. But during the process of doing it, on the way there, if he's 30 days in, if he's 3 months in and he's lost 30 pounds, he's on track towards what the goal is. What he's doing is working. He's getting the positive feedback from all of his work and all of his effort, and that kind of adds to this loop of, like, making him more motivated going forward. So once you've done that and you've gotten to see, like, okay, I've given myself this goal and I'm on track to achieve it. What I'm doing is working. I can do this. I'm going to make this happen. Once that clicks, and once you know that, then, we always kind of talk about cheating on our diets as, like, in, like, a joking way. It's like, oh, I'm taking a cheat day. It's like, oh, I'm going to have a refeed day. Like, it can be a little lighthearted depending on how serious your diet is. Not as much now, like, less than fucking 2 weeks out. It's just not going to happen. But it really is like a disappointment, Like, if I have a day where I really just fucking let loose, like if I stopped in this gas station right to my left and I ate 10 fruit snacks and I just said, you know what, I gotta eat it. I just give into that, that kind of dopaminergic urge to just sugar, sweets, candy, ice cream, everything. If I did that, obviously I'm not going to do it, but if I did afterward, sure, maybe in the moment I'm getting some feel-good signals in my mind of, like, oh yes, sweets. Oh, I can finally eat sweets again. Awesome. This feels so good. I'm getting blood sugar. This is great. All of that enjoyment will completely rebound, probably equal, if not more than equal, negative of, like, man, why the fuck did I just do that? I just undid all the work I did for the last few weeks. I'm, like, completely going against what my goals are. There's people where they kind of, I think, go through life and they're following the rules. And then there's people where they kind of have their own rules. They have their own morals, their own values, and that's what sort of guides them. And if you go against those, then fuck, man, not good, right? And if you know this feeling, you know what I'm talking about. I was just saying this in a full day of eating. I don't remember exactly how I said it, but it's like, if you really value dieting, you really value the goal that you're trying to achieve, you're not going to catch yourself slipping that much. I'll have a crazy refeed every now and again, if it's justifiable, but right, time and time again, if I say I'm bulking, I'm bulking. If I say I'm dieting, I'm dieting. And I don't want to let a fast twitch like instant gratification kind of motivation throw me off that path. I'm not concerned with exactly how I'm feeling, like, immediate comfort wise for the next hour or for the next 2 hours, right? I'm looking a little bit longer ahead. I'm looking weeks, I'm looking months. Like, okay, I want to be able to say I did this, and also I want to do it in the moment. So it's like, I really can't say this enough. You are going to be you in the future. Like, everything you're doing right now, currently in this moment, is adding up and accumulating into your future self. So if you're basically, putting all your enjoyment on credit and you're just eating a bunch of trash, you're slacking off, you're not working towards anything that you can kind of show off or like enjoy in the future, well, then future you is going to show up and think, crap, all I did was eat freaking Funyuns and watch TV all day for years. Probably could have done that a little bit differently, I don't know if anybody has ever had that exact thought, but something along those lines at least, So I can't really think of a better kind of, not feeling, but a more kind of just complete satisfaction of basically giving myself a semi-long-term goal and not only achieving it, but just knowing that I'm on track to do so. Right? When you're on track, when you're basically filling off your checklist every day of the things that you want to do, and not want as in like, oh, I want to go get some Buffalo Wild Wings. Oh, I want to go get some Canes today. Like things that you actually want to do, like values, like goal achieving kind of stuff. That's a good feeling. You basically have your house in order at that point. And people who do, at least from what I've seen, like people who they have their own goals, they have their own projects, their own like visions, or their own work that they really get into, and they do it and they actually get after it. Those people are the fucking coolest. That's who I want to be around. Those are the guys who I'm actually like looking up to, thinking like, yeah, fuck yeah, I want to be like that. I want to be in the same pack. I want to be the same cut as that guy. That's cool. That's badass. That gets me excited, So maybe you got to flip it around in your mind, right? I've been having this thought. I'd say it's getting close to a current mantra of every time I'm like, basically having to thug it out in terms of the diet. Because right now, well, there's no food in the car. There's no, obviously I can't eat anything until I get home. So I don't really have any temptation to cheat on my diet. There's no food around. But like when I'm home in the cupboard and I'm looking around, like maybe there's like treats or something, or even just a crazy big bowl of oatmeal would get me pretty fucking excited. Every time I think that, I'm like, oh man, that wouldn't be bad to eat some of that right now. My kind of lock-in motivational thought is like, yeah, that's what everybody else would do. Everybody else would go for the treat. Nah, man, not me. At least not me right now. Fast forward a few months, my food intake is going to look a little different, but it'll still be, in line with what my goals are. They'll just be, different goals. So take with that what you will. I am going home a happy freaking lifter. So I'm going to get some food in my system, slam a bunch of fluids, get ready for a little bit of low intensity, steady state cardio. Probably take a nap with Blue. Things are good. Things are very fucking good. So I'll see you tomorrow.